Welcome to Mystery Files, where we take a deep dive into cases that span from the strange to the truly sinister and everything in between. I'm Ryan, and today I'll be forcing my colleague Shane to hear all about the inexplicable Dyatlov Pass incident. And in the end, you'll have to decide whether the case is solved or if it's simply a mystery.
Oh, God, carrying groceries. Ugh. Whoa! Oh! Whoa! Ah! Oh! Never again. Oh! Tripping all over myself, carrying bag after bag of groceries only to make some meal I hated. That was the old me. It's a new year and therefore a new me! My New Year's resolution is to spend more time doing what I love and less time going to the grocery store. And Hungry Root is gonna make that happen.
Doorbell.
Now, Hungry Root plans all my groceries for the week, fills my cart, and delivers everything I'll need to eat healthy every day, all while fitting my health goals, dietary preferences, and budget. Hungry Root has over 1,000 grocery items. With that much variety, it's insanely easy to find options that fit everyone's tastes and nutrition goals. No more spending time mulling over the grocery list, only to just decide to make the same thing you didn't like eating last week. Dig this. Tonight I'll be eating chicken chili verde with rice and beans. And tomorrow, it's Japanese barbecue chicken breast fried rice, babe. Oh, with incredible stuff like chicken sticks and heirloom potatoes. I just know the new year is gonna be delicious. And yours can be too. Oh, you're gonna love Hungry Root as much as I do. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box. Plus, get a free item in every box for life. Click the link below or go to hungryroot.com and use code WATCHER. That's 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life at hungryroot.com with code WATCHER. I think this one's unsolved, right?
We did it on Unsolved.
Yeah, but did they figure it out?
This is the beginning of the episode.
Okay, all right.
We did cover this episode in BuzzFeed Unsolved back in the day, but you actually weren't present because you weren't on that show yet.
Was that a Brent episode?
Yeah, it was.
I don't remember that. Oh, okay.
You just said I remember this episode. You weren't even there.
Great start.
But no, we did cover this back in the day, just not as extensively as we're about to right now, because I think at that time the episode was like 8 minutes long. It'll be much more, at least 11 minutes more of context.
Well, then I guess I don't know anything about this.
You don't. You know nothing, but you will soon. Let's get into it, huh?
That's a happy guy.
Not for long. Igor Dyatlov was a fifth-year radio engineering student at one of the top technical colleges in Russia. He'd built a telescope to watch Sputnik travel across the sky and hoped to go into the new field of cosmonautics. Dyatlov was also an avid and ambitious member of the UPI Sports Club, which would go on wilderness expeditions in the nearby Ural Mountains. And Dyatlov would often plan and lead these trips. And in late 1958, that's exactly what he did, as he began to plan a cross-country ski trip that would demonstrate the Soviet spirit and take 16 days to cover 190 miles across the North Ural Mountains, about 350 miles north of the school. Dyatlov submitted his proposal for the expedition to the UPI Sports Club, which approved it. Joining Dyatlov's expedition were fellow UPI students and recent graduates, including his close friend Yuri Krevnishenko, 23, who'd graduated from UPI with an engineering degree 2 years earlier and had since worked at the Mayak nuclear complex in the then secret town of Chelyabinsk, 40.
Secret town?
Secret town.
What? Do you have more about that?
No, but I'm sure there were 39 that preceded it.
Secret towns?
Sounds like an element. Also on the trip, Rustam Slobodin, 23, another recent engineering graduate and a long-distance runner. Nikolai Thibault-Brignol, 23, an engineering graduate whose French communist father had been imprisoned at one of Stalin's work camps, also came. Yuri Yudin, 22, an economics student, came as well as Alexander Kolovatov, 24, a nuclear physics student. Yuri Doroshenko, 21, a nuclear physics student who reportedly had worked at a secret institute in Moscow, also on the trip. What secret? places.
Well, yeah, in Soviet Russia, yeah, they had some secret police as well.
Zinaida Kolmogorova, 22, an engineering student who had recently broken up with Doroshenko and was worried about how being on the trip with him would be.
Who were the lovers here?
So these are the two that had recently broken
You know
up.
what? I see it.
Get this, how do you think they fell in love? They fell
In a very secret way, in a secret town, on secret dates.
No, they actually fell in love on an earlier expedition after he'd chased off a bear. So I did not make that up.
I'm horny.
Luda Dubinina, 20, the youngest of the group and a devout communist, she reportedly had been accidentally shot on a previous trip and survived the 50-mile trek back. A few days before the expedition was set to leave, the university administration added Semyon Zolotayev, 37, a sports instructor who had fought in World War II, to the group. And with that, they were all ready to go. As you can see, they've assembled quite the squad of savvy personnel.
The Soviet Avengers. Except they're just a bunch of white people and they're not wearing costumes and they don't have superpowers and they all look mad.
But they have superpowers in their minds.
Yeah.
A lot of them are experienced either in travel when it comes to the snow, in expeditions, or they are of sound mind. We got a physics student. We got a guy who fought in World War II. We have two people who fucked, but don't fuck anymore. You know, that's good to have that kind of energy on the trip.
Yeah,
you need some sexual tension.
You want that.
You want some campfire talk where it's
That's
like,
right.
did you see what they gave each other? I think they're gonna. The good-spirited group set off from Sverdlovsk, now Yekaterinburg, on January 23rd, 1959. On January 28th, with the group now skiing, led by a horse-drawn sleigh and camping in tents, Yuri Yudin, the 22-year-old economics student, had such a bad sciatica flare-up that he decided to turn around, taking the horse and sleigh with him. Everyone else continued forward, distributing his supplies among them. We know all of this because the group documented their trip. There was a communal journal that they took turns writing in, and many had their own personal journals. At least 5 of them had cameras. They wrote letters to their families and friends and mailed them along the way those first few days. They were heading towards Mount Atortin, which reportedly means, "Don't go there," in the language of the native people, the Mansi. Their final destination was a village called Vizhai, where they were supposed to arrive on February 12th, and then telegram the UPI Sports Club to let them know that they were safe. The telegram never arrived.
Fuck. Oh, dramatic. Oh,
Okay,
well,
I fucked that up. Hold
disappeared
on. The telegram never arrived.
It's like Back to the Future.
I know.
Did you do that on purpose?
Erased from existence. At first, everyone assumed the group had been delayed by weather, which was unpredictable in the mountains, obviously. There had been reports of a blizzard. On February 20th, multiple search parties were launched. A volunteer group of students from UPI, nearby prison guards, a group of Mansi hunters, area police, and planes and helicopters from the military. On February 25th, one group found ski tracks on a remote mountain that the Mansi called Kolatsiako, reportedly translating to Dead Mountain. Following them to the edge of the forest, they climbed the pass for about 500 meters when they saw the tent. Not promising nomenclature for these passes and mountains that they're taking.
Heed the word.
Heed the word. Heed the word. Signage is important. One tent pole and part of the canvas was sticking out, but the rest was covered in snow. This is actually that image, by the way. Clearing it off, they discovered that the tent had been slashed. Opening it, they saw that everything was in perfect order. Boots, backpacks, axes, and other equipment were lined up neatly at the entrance. Food, a plate of salo, a high-calorie pork fat food that's common for hikers in the region, had been prepared and looked ready to be eaten. They also found...
Did you bring some?
No.
I would like more food on this show.
So you just want to sit there
And eat.
and you want me to feed you, is what I'm getting.
I want you to feed me.
Like a baby. They also found the group's journals and cameras, which is how they knew that this happened on February 1st. They discovered that slashes in the tent's canvas had come from inside the tent. Then, about 100 feet downhill from the tent, the search party found footprints. 8 or 9 people had walked, not run, for several meters toward the trees. Only one person appeared to have been wearing a single ski boot. The others just wore socks, or were even barefoot. The temperature would have been around -20 degrees Celsius, or, for all you Americans, -4 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, if you recall, we had some real trouble shooting at like even 0 degrees over in Montana when we were interviewing that horse. You remember that?
That was cold, yeah.
Could you imagine doing that barefoot?
And you had COVID.
I did at the time, I didn't realize it.
Yeah, and you just
I powered through.
didn't tell us.
Okay, I did. That's not true. That's revisionist. I did not know I had COVID. I didn't pull a Wednesday, okay? The next day, the search party found the first 2 bodies under a cedar tree. Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko, both in their underwear. Nearby was an extinguished campfire, and high above it seemed like some branches had been broken off to be used as kindling. Later the same day, 2 more bodies were found. Igor Dyatlov and Zinaida Kolmogorova. Igor, face down in the snow, wore clothes but no shoes, while Zinaida seemed like she had been crawling back toward the tent. A bruise on the side of her body looked like she had been hit. A few days later, on March 5th, they found Rustam Slobodin. He had a fractured skull, but he was better dressed than the others, meaning he had some warm clothing on. He wore multiple layers on top and bottom and had on 1 ski boot. His watch had stopped at 8:45. The search for the remaining bodies continued for months, but in the meantime, this officially became a homicide investigation led by Lev Ivanov, a prosecutor in his mid-30s.
30s?
I know.
Oh, not in this photo?
No, that's, I believe,
I was gonna say, well, they really aged him over.
well, this is just one of those, that's the phenomenon like people back in the day.
I mean, the haircut's not doing him any favors.
No.
Can we take that photo and sort of yassify him a
We
little
could
bit?
2025 him.
Okay.
Yeah. Like put
Let's see what that would look like.
I'm sure our editor is going to love
That in post, yeah.
that work that you just gave them. The tent and its contents were airlifted out of the mountains for further study. Autopsies were performed. They discovered that Krivonishenko, in addition to 3rd-degree burns on his shin and foot, had bitten off a piece of flesh from his right hand. Doroshenko had burned hair on one side of his head. Yikes.
They got bites, they got burns.
Is your mind going towards more the supernatural at this point, or are you
No.
thinking? Okay, it's just a question.
You
don't
know
have to
it's
be,
not.
You don't have to be snippy about it.
I don't know. Sorry. I didn't
No.
mean to be snippy.
Unbelievable. It's a question. I'll get you your pork, Jesus.
I know that hypothermia make people go crazy,
It does. We'll get into that later.
so I'm sure that's a factor. Are they sure all those things happened at that moment, or maybe
It's an apt question.
there was a tussle?
In May, once the snow had melted some, a Mansi hunter discovered a makeshift snow den with a bed of branches about 250 feet from where the first 2 bodies had been found. Pieces of clothing, pants, missing a leg, and just the arm of a sweater were inside. Another search party found the remaining 4 bodies nearby, in a rocky stream bed under 10 feet of snow. Their injuries were far worse than the ones who'd been found back in February. Also, just want to point out the distance in time from when these bodies were discovered versus the ones from before, but also the actual literal distance that the bodies were from each other, not that great. Just kind of contextualizes how much snow was.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of snow to dig through, so they didn't
You have to wait for it to
melt.
melt, which is gruesome. And apologies for the gruesome nature here. This is a trigger warning before we get into these injuries. I'm going to say what happened to these people, but it is a bit alarming and gruesome. So just a warning for those of you who are sensitive to that. Nikolai Topol-Brignol's skull had been broken so badly that pieces were embedded in his brain. Alexander Kolovatov had a strangely twisted neck and a wound behind his ear, while Semyon Zolotaryov and Luda Debnina both had crushed chests. The injuries were typical of, quote, the result of an impact of an automobile moving at high speed, end quote. Both Semyon and Luda were missing their eyes, and Luda was also missing her tongue and upper lip, and also had a massive hemorrhage in her heart. All 4 bodies were wearing clothes taken or cut off others, and several of the items had high levels of radiation. Bizarre, to say
Now the
the least.
eyes thing, I think animals would probably go for those.
Sure. I don't know many bears that break somebody's neck like an assassin.
No, but I mean, if they were, if there was like an impact from an avalanche or something, or falling debris or
the
trees,
twisted neck, maybe.
Yeah, that could fuck them up.
What about the radiation, though?
I don't know. It's just Russia.
What?
It's Russia.
Okay, that doesn't make any sense. What do you mean?
Sure
it's a
it
mountain.
does.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. You know, they probably. Who knows? You know?
It's odd.
I'm sure it's probably not hard to encounter out there. You know what I mean?
I don't think so because it's noteworthy. So,
I'd be curious, like the levels of radiation, because obviously there's like naturally occurring radiation.
of course. but this is high levels of radiation.
High relative to what? Like, what are we talking?
Relative to what would occur in that mountain.
Sure, but like what? I want some context.
You actually want the units.
I want the units.
Let's put that on screen right now. There you go. And yet, on May 28, Ivanov ended the investigation, saying, quote, "It should be concluded that the cause of the hikers' demise was an overwhelming force, which they were not able to overcome." End quote. Good job, Doc.
Gotcha.
Looks like these people got fucked up. His job was only to discover whether there had been a crime, and he decided that there hadn't been. Though the families of the victims were dissatisfied, the case was closed and the files were classified. The place in the mountains that had been the skiers' goal that they had never reached was renamed Dyatlov Pass. Overwhelming force. What could that be?
Like an avalanche or something, yeah.
Well, let's get into the theories, huh?
Let's get...
Not yet. Over the years... Actually, it is theory time. It's time for theories. Let's get into the theories. There they are. Look at them. Over the years, people in Russia and around the world developed theories as to what happened on that fateful winter night. So, let's get into them. Theory number 1, something supernatural. I started with this one instead.
Sure.
Normally I end with this and it pisses you off. I did this for you. I put it up top. How do you think? How do you feel about that?
I'm pissed about it. I just don't, doesn't hold a lot of water for me.
About 30 years later, after the initial investigation in 1990, Ivanov published an article claiming that the hikers had been killed by balls of fire or heat rays associated with UFOs. In addition to some mysterious burns on some of the bodies, he claimed there were burn marks on nearby trees. Additionally, the last photograph of Krivoshenko's camera showed streaks of light. However, that's typical of the end of a roll of film. And I mean, both of us have shot on film.
Yeah, I've used film.
This is typical, I will admit. This happened when I was at my in-laws' house and my nephew said, "Could I see your SLR camera?" And I was like, "Sure." And then he just opened the back immediately of a camera that I'd already shot half a roll of film in.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the roll of film looked just like this.
Yeah, and you don't talk to him anymore.
I killed him.
Well, that took the joke a little far.
It wasn't a joke.
Okay.
No, yeah, I was like, come on, man. Another supernatural theory that became popular, it was a Yeti. That's the last photograph in Thibaut Brignol's film roll. And it was of a large, shadowy humanoid figure coming towards the camera, as you can see there. That's a real photo. I did a bit of Redditing last night to just see what the folks on Reddit think of this image. The consensus, surprisingly actually, is this just looks like one of the hikers.
I was gonna say it's out of focus, but if you sort of almost defocus your eyes even more, you can see clothing. I see like a jacket and almost like a waistline. That's a person.
Yeah, because I have not been able to confirm this because I was looking for the rolls of film sequentially.
Yeah.
But apparently, according to some folks on Reddit, there was an image before this that was of a hiker. So it stands to,
it's a lovely photo.
Yeah.
It's out of focus, but I guess it's not good.
A pamphlet found in the tent joked of the existence of Yetis. And when searching the internet, many claim the existence of a Russian Yeti, allegedly known as the Myunk in native Mansi folklore. A site called Hanger One Publishing describes the Myunk as, quote, "a hairy wild man of the mountains." These ancient tales paint a picture of a fearsome creature known for its ferocity and disturbing habit of ripping out its victims' tongues. That doesn't look like a very vicious animal, by the way.
He's like, "Hi,
He looks like he's about to give a speech.
I'm here for your tongue."
Where are you on a Yeti in general? Are you similar to where you are on Bigfoot? In that you don't outright deny it, but you're open to it, perhaps.
I'm open to it. For some reason, I'm more open to Sasquatch than Yeti. I don't know why.
That doesn't make as much sense to me because I feel like it would be
It's a gut thing.
Well, I was saying it'd be easier to hide in the mountains
yeah.
than it would be, I think, in the forest.
I agree
Maybe
with
that doesn't make sense. I think it does, though.
I've gone on record, and I'll do it again because people keep asking me. If I had to put money on it, I don't think Sasquatch or Yeti exist. But I do think there's a possibility there.
Sure.
More so than ghosts, which I think are impossible.
Okay, that's...
Aliens,
Don't
which
even know
I
why
do-
those caught a stray here. There's nothing to do with this.
Aliens, I do think likely exist. I don't think they've necessarily visited Earth.
So you're fully
and
on
now
board.
you know everything about me.
You're on board with this theory then of the UFO and then
I don't think either of these things were responsible for this, no.
Theory number 2, military testing. All of this happened during a time of great secrecy in the Soviet Union, and the favored theory among civilians at the time was that Dyatlov had stumbled across top secret military testing. People who attended the funeral said that the victim's skin was a weird reddish-brown color. One witness said, quote, "There was nothing in the newspapers, but everyone was talking about it. We thought it must be some kind of state secret," end quote. Igor Dyatlov's sister said the families were told, quote, "You will never know the truth, so stop asking questions," end quote.
Is that a nefarious quote, or could that just be someone saying like, look, you're never gonna find satisfaction here?
Nefarious, perhaps. Rude, absolutely. At a funeral?
I mean, but if
you
they're-
will never know the
But
truth.
if someone's going, yeah, what happened to my brother? What happened to my brother? I'd be like,
funeral.
I don't
What are you
know.
talking
Stop
about?
asking me. This is a funeral. That's fair.
That's not fair.
I think that's
I'm gonna
fair.
go on the record and say that's not fair.
I think it's fair.
I don't think it's
Sorry.
fair. Pieces of the group's clothing contained traces of radiation, and the initial morgue setup for the first bodies found was protected by the KGB rather than by area police. Reportedly, many birds and animals were found dead in the area, and locals were banned from hunting or drinking well water for some time after. Were the flashing lights or ball of fire that were spotted actually a missile launch gone wrong, or had rocket fuel fallen on the campers? What do you think, Shane?
That's interesting.
That's all pretty weird. No?
Rocket fuel's interesting, man.
No, I'm talking about like, don't drink the well water.
Yeah.
KGB looking over the case. Animals dead around the site. Radiation traces on the bodies.
That's interesting.
You can't do that. You can't
do whatever I want.
No, you can't do that.
Yes,
You can't do
when
you
I'm
can't,
in the chair, I can do whatever I
No, you
want.
can't fucking do that. You
I can
can't
do
be
whatever I
like,
want.
you can't be like,
Hey,
animals,
guess what?
animals.
Guess what?
And then when I give you
Guess
something
what, man?
that's like, you can't
I'm
explain.
writing it in the
You can't
journal.
just go,
That's pretty
"Oh,
fucking
that's
interesting.
You
That's
have to
interesting.
admit,
I've written it. That's interesting.
great notes. Sure, you're gonna remember that later.
I don't know what that's referring to.
That could be anything. I just think it's crazy that they're like, don't drink the well water, but also nothing weird happened there.
Maybe they're worried.
Why would they be worried if nothing happened? What if
the
it was just
Soviet
him?
Union has a rich history of being concerned for the welfare of its citizens.
Sure, look it up. However, in the mass declassification of Soviet documents that's happened over the last several decades, no evidence of this has ever emerged. One Russian journalist thinks it's implausible that the Russian government would have let students join the search party if it were really a cover-up. Fair. Equally, she thinks it's unlikely that over the years, no one would have gotten drunk and let the truth slip. We're Russian. There's also a theory that Semyon Zolotaryov, the older World War II vet who joined the trip at the last minute, was an undercover KGB agent, and all of this was a KGB mission gone wrong. Theory 3, murdered. Another popular theory among Russians is that the group was murdered, possibly by mercenaries or even American spies. Yuri Yudin, who had turned around because of his sciatica, believed this theory before his death in 2013. He thought Luda had her tongue cut out because she was the most outspoken. There is another theory that the group was killed by the local indigenous people, the Mansi, for being on their sacred land. Racist. However, the Mansi were instrumental in the search party, and the land was not only not sacred to them, it was worthless. Remember them saying,
Don't go there.
Don't go there.
Dead mountain.
Dead mountain. They're like, this sucks.
This place sucks.
Yeah, so I don't think they'd be like killing somebody because they went to Dead Mountain. Furthermore, there was no evidence that other people had been at the campsite, and the snow would have shown it. Which, by the way, it is kind of cool that they were able to tell that they walked, not ran.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I guess the depression, but then like also...
The depression if you're running...
But if the snow falls on top of it, you know?
I think even snowfall on top of it, you would still have the compressed snow underneath.
You do know snow. This is goes back to Unsolved Days. Everyone knows that you know snow.
I do.
Theory number 4, infrasound or katabatic winds. Some believe that high winds passing over the mountains might have created infrasound, vibrations below the range of human hearing that could have scared the skiers and caused them to flee their tent. Katabatic winds, or high winds that blow denser air down a slope to less dense air because of gravity, may also have occurred and scared them enough to cause them to flee. Once outside, the group could have experienced paradoxical undressing. an effect of hypothermia in which mental confusion causes victims to remove layers of clothing because they believe they are actually overheating. This happens a lot to people that you find in Everest, unfortunately.
I find those all the time up there, yeah.
Yeah, because you go up there a lot.
I gotta say, I've always thought that this would be a good way to go.
Paradoxical undressing.
Hypothermia, freezing to death in the mountains. They say it's euphoric.
Theory 5. Avalanche. An avalanche seemed possible, even likely, in those mountains, and with that weather, it theoretically could have caused those injuries and caused the group to flee the tent. But there was no debris at the site that suggested an avalanche, and those with the worst injuries, which would have been debilitating, were found in the snow den away from the tent. Additionally, it was determined that the slope above the tent was too shallow an angle to create an avalanche. So, all that being said, what do you think?
They don't know. They can't say like, well, I don't think an avalanche could have happened here. What do you know?
Well, in terms of all the theories presented here.
It's an avalanche.
Oh, so you're going 5.
It's an avalanche. They get an avalanche, fucks them all up. They're scrambling to get out of their tents, cut the tents open. Then they're like, fuck, we left our stuff in the tent. You know, it's covered in snow, can't get back in there, that's too cold. So then they try and make do. Some of them are fucked up because probably debris fell on them. Maybe stuff's still falling, I don't know. Some of them go try to make a fire, they all die. Everybody dies.
So that's your official answer?
Sure. And then can't they get like sunburnt out there?
Yeah,
right?
A little bit, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Radiation, look, I don't know. But radiation's weird. That's fair to say.
Sure.
And we don't have the numbers on that radiation, and once you get those to me, I'll weigh in on it.
We already showed them.
I didn't see them.
Yeah, you did.
You put them up in post.
No, I didn't.
You rat bastard.
I did not do that.
Did they figure it out?
No, this is the part of the episode where we reveal if it's a mystery or if it's actually been solved.
You can say unsolved. We've gone over this.
Sure.
Say it. I want you to say it.
Whether it's unsolved.
They're very good.
Well, let's find out. In 2019, the case was reopened.
This was after the acclaimed BuzzFeed Unsolved episode. Do you think that had anything to do with this?
I don't know. I'm sure they saw all 7 minutes of that extensive documentary and they were like, they're onto something.
Ryan Bergara. He poses some interesting questions. I don't know why they sound like Dracula, sorry.
You did, yeah, I was about to say. The prosecutor in charge was Andrei Kiryakov, who organized a winter expedition back to the site and conducted a new investigation. From the jump, he decided to only consider natural causes. From 75 potential theories, he said, quote, "A large class of them are conspiracy theories alleging that the authorities were somehow involved in the incident. We have already proved that this is absolutely false." Do you believe this Russian official saying? A lot of people are saying that we're lying, and I'm telling you right now, we're not.
I don't know. I guess I want to hear what he has to say.
Hear him out.
Yeah.
They also looked through historical weather data and found that the conditions were worse than they originally believed, too. Winds of up to 65 miles per hour and temperatures at negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Snow would have been swirling around them, and they may have not known their exact location as they made camp. In July 2020, Kiryakov announced his team's findings. They believed a slab of snow had detached from the mountain above and landed on the tent, burying the skiers and causing them to cut their way out and flee in various states of dress. It would have made a loud sound and indicated the beginning of a larger avalanche. Their response was textbook. They did everything right, even though a bigger avalanche never came. They hiked downhill to the cedar tree and built a fire, but in such extreme cold, it wasn't enough. It's ironic that if they had been less experienced, they might have stayed closer to the tent, dug it out, and survived in their original shelter. The two most poorly dressed died first, and the burns on their body probably came from a desperate attempt to use the fire to get warm. Hypothermia can cause mental confusion, which could explain their other odd injuries. The survivors took clothing off the dead to stay warm. The group split up, with some trying unsuccessfully to return to the tent. The others built a snow den for shelter, but they unknowingly built it above a stream that doesn't freeze. The roof of their den collapsed, crushing them. The missing flesh would have come from the animals and decomposition over the 3 months they lay undiscovered. Radiation could have come from a nuclear accident 2 years earlier in the region, at the very place where Krivonishenko worked. Kiryakov ended his press conference, quote, "Formally, this is it. The case is closed," end quote. The families of the victims were dissatisfied with this explanation and declared their continued belief that a weapons test had gone wrong. Even in 2021, when an independent team of Swiss scientists released a study that scientifically corroborated the snow slab theory, some still didn't buy it. Today, there's a memorial to the skiers at Dyatlov Pass, which has become a popular hiking and tourist destination. So, what do you think? With this new information, it's still a mystery?
No.
I don't think so either, honestly. I'm gonna be honest. The one thing that really gave me pause and that I really dug into was the image of the figure. But even looking at it, I was like,
Oh, of the alleged Yeti?
because like everything else is squared by the snow slab theory.
Yeah.
Everything. Like even the strange injuries,
The radiation.
the overwhelming force is just the roof collapsing on top of them. The fire burns are from them trying to start a fire without clothing. They got close, got burned, mental state of confusion from the hypothermia. It all checks out. The radiation even having happened 2 years earlier at a prior accident.
I'll take it.
I mean,
what kind of weapon would they be? A weapon doesn't make sense.
Again,
Weapons testing,
they would
'cause
not send people, civilians, out to search for them in a place where a weapons test went wrong. That makes no sense. So I personally
You're content.
feel like we could say this one is solved.
I think we can say it. We're agreeing.
I mean, he said it pretty definitively too. This is it. Case closed. Try them off in the comments. Do you think we're wrong? Do you think it's not solved? I'm gonna say solved though.
I feel like every year there's always like, oh, they might have finally solved this, and it's just a bunch of regurgitated bullshit.
But this is legit.
This feels legit.
I'm glad we revisited this.
Me too.
We did good work here today.
Yeah.
Even though the only note you took is, that's interesting.
Well, wasn't it?
It was, you know, you were right.
I was right.
That was interesting.
I also wrote people froze. I don't know.
One thing is for sure, the 9 skiers, skilled outdoors people with impressive educations and their whole lives ahead of them came to a tragic end that cold February night. While Kuryakov's theory is distinctly plausible, because officially, I guess, remains a mystery, but this is solved. Fuck it, I'm
It's
saying
solved.
it. This is solved. I think this
solved.
is solved. This is solved.
It's solved.
Change the
It's
graphic.
solved.
This isn't a mystery. Get rid of the fucking...
3 exclamation points.
Yeah, that's right. Get rid of, make these not squiggly and make them solved.
Solved.
Exclamation points.
Exclamation
That's good.
points.
We should do that every time one's solved. That's a really good
Wow,
idea.
because then it's like, wow!
Oh, shit!
Holy shit!
Yeah.
We did it!
We did it.
Yeah.
We all did it. Hell. Why did you shake my hand like that? It's delicate. We'll see you next time on Mystery Files, which is actually going to be next month, because now, every month, we will have an episode of Ghost Files Debrief, and Mystery Files. So, we're spooky year round now, guys. We'll see you next month for another one. Let's solve another one.
Hi, Ryan.
I thought I knew it was
Hey,
going to
dude.
happen.
What's up? Welcome to Mystery Files.
Oh my God, the necklace.
Oh my God, the necklace.
That's so good.
It's so good.
Wait, the tattoo.
Wait, the tattoo.
Oh, the other tattoo. Oh, that's crazy.